Global leadership basically means to me that there's like great people leading other great people. That means like whether or not you're in a business that has companies that are across, the world or the globe. Like my dad, he works for a Fortune 500 company and he has factories all over the world. He goes there and leads because his machines are what those factories, are run on. So he's a global leader kind of in that way. There's other examples that you could have like global leading, such as political aspects or different things like that. So that's kind of what global leadership means to me.
My definition or understanding of global leadership would be to be able to interact with multiple people and multiple cultures while still maintaining a leadership role, and so understanding who you are in that setting and how you function in that setting to make sure that you're able to communicate across lines and not have to, I guess, come across as a bully or as a know-it-all or conceited, because hopefully you would be able to relate to those people, and so you would be able to have a good relationship and still lead. But being a person of character, I think, is leadership globally. So knowing who you are in that sense of your character, and then being able to have relationships and step up in any situation.
Well, global leadership is the evolution, so the next step of leadership. And leadership is essentially trying to influence others and their opinions and trying to motivate a group to do something and to achieve a goal. When you think of global leadership, it is encompassing just a wider spectrum. You deal with diversity issues. You deal with the fact that you're not just competing with companies in your own city or state, you're competing with the rest of the world. You deal with, sometimes if you're in a company, people going abroad and having to manage a team that has a completely different culture or background. And so it's just about vision, just about having a wider vision and a greater sense of awareness and understanding of what's around you and who's around you.
I have a perspective that I found from a quote that I recently researched over the past year. It's from Odell and Huang from roughly 2008 from the Journal of College and Character. Teaching leadership with a global perspective has become an urgent imperative for all leadership programs, as daily interactions with economies, culture, politics, technology, communication, and individuals and education with individuals around the world has become commonplace. For example, an individual who grew up in Goodland, Kansas, population 4,800, now at the age of 28 may live in Dubai and work for an energy think tank based in Boston. So the reach of global leadership, I think, is much larger than we sometimes think it can possibly be. And just going off of that, I don't think sometimes you even have to leave Kansas necessarily to have a global leadership type of perspective, because we live in a global society, and so you can stay in Kansas in a small town and still be immersed in a global society, and in that society you're going to be required to sometimes pull out of yourself leadership qualities that will need a global perspective to be successful.
There's a lot of similarities, but there are some differences in the sense that you don't have as, like, not necessarily a boundary, but you don't have as much of the culture to feel out, if that makes sense. Whenever it comes to being a global leader, you need to be able to adapt very quickly. I think being a regular, everyday leader, you have to adapt quickly as well. But you don't have as many areas coming at you to adapt to. It's still having that character and being able to relate to people is a big piece of leadership in general. So that way, if you don't know your people, you can't lead your people. And so I think that that's an important piece. But I think that at the same time, you have to be a person of character. But it differs in the sense that, I guess, just the fact of not having as much to adapt to. But I think being a leader is being a leader. And so I think that that's the important piece, that there are some differences in the sense that you don't have as many areas to navigate, but you still, if you're a leader, you're a leader, and so you need to step up, no matter if it's every day or globally.
The difference between like a global leader and a regular leader is global leaders aren't afraid to get out there and go to different places and meet different people. You know, they learn different languages for reasons. They learn to better communicate with people. So global leaders just are people that aren't afraid to get out there and to really go and like meet new people and meet new cultures and experience new things.
I would probably say that a global leader probably has a bit more breadth and perspective, maybe a bit wider, like kind of hovering and looking at things from a wider angle maybe, or a wider lens, taking into account different cultures and different types of ways that other communities may be dealing with a certain challenge that they're facing. And when you're looking at things from a global perspective, sometimes you're going to have to use certain characteristics and certain aspects of your personality and qualities and strengths that you have that you may not use on a daily basis. You'll have to kind of have a bit wider range of qualities that you'll have to pull out of yourself to deal with a certain challenge or the different types of communities that you'll be interacting with. And I think that that's probably a big area that a global leader probably would need in regards to just simply a leader that's not necessarily taking on a global perspective.
You're trying to differentiate a regular leader from a global leader. I would say you need to look at how that person handles an issue. So a leader might be very effective in motivating a group and getting a task accomplished, but there might be some issues that that person comes across and that they don't know how to solve or deal with. Like in the example of diversity, or sometimes leaving someone in the group aside and not really fully utilizing that person because of certain differences that you just don't know how to deal with. But a global leader will be aware of all types of cultural issues, and we'll just have a greater talent in regards to developing a relationship with everyone in a team. So they'll be able to really fully utilize what that person has to offer.